So how do you condense 50 years of marriage into just a few minutes on a video? It seems impossible.
I guess we start at the beginning.
So the beginning was in choir in Johnson High School when we met for the first time, and I watched Rosanne walk across the room. I don't know when, but I remember when I saw her, I couldn't keep my eyes off her.
Yeah, well, I saw him when he was trying out for South Pacific. He was trying out for Emile DeBeck, and he was a Frenchman with black hair. This guy had sandy hair, red hair, freckles. It just didn't work.
I got a big part of his Luther Billis. He was the guy that could get you anything. But the remarkable thing is, we both did a hula dance. Hers was a little better than mine. Mine almost shut the show down.
2 teachers walked out and wanted to bring the show to an end because they thought it was obscene.
I still could keep my eyes off her. You know, I went off to college and didn't get a chance to hang around Johnson High School a whole lot. But I started to hang around her house. In fact, I would drive past her house every day, hoping she would be outside. I guess today you'd call that stalking. Yeah. One day she was up on the hill and came down and talked to me.
We just talked, and then later on, he asked me out for a date.
Northrop Auditorium for the Minnesota Orchestra, sat in the 4th row from the top. In 365 days, I saw her 364 of those days.
My mother wasn't pleased about that.
No, she wasn't. Along came senior prom, and she was my prom date. Then I asked you to a horse show.
Rodeo. I keep saying it's a rodeo.
Why is that important?
After the rodeo, he's like, why don't we go look at rings? I'm like, rings?
And I didn't say, do you want to marry me? I just said, let's go look at rings. So we went to Goodman Jewelers.
I found the ring that I have on now, and I said, this is beautiful. And the guy said, why don't you just take it home for the weekend and wear it? If you don't want it, you can bring it back on Monday.
She never took it off.
I never took it off, but he never did propose. Never,
so
to this day.
No.
No.
It's kind of late, you know. My dad saw the ring and went, what? And Mom gave us cookies. Things progress. I'm back in school. Things got a little tough for me in school, and there was this thing called Vietnam, and the draft board said to me, if you don't go to summer school, you're going to be drafted. And so I left for the Air Force in March of '67.
My parents were not Christians. I was raised Lutheran, and we were going to have this wedding and then a hall with alcohol and dancing, and his mom and dad said,
and grandparents,
if you do that, we're not coming to the reception. And it went back and forth. So the wedding was planned for September 10th.
Now, you understand, I'm in the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
I went in on August 3rd. They said to me, you are going to start this advanced instructor training on September 6th.
I had everything ordered. The hall, the church, the cake, the dress, the food, everything was ready to go. And all of a sudden, it came to a dead stop.
So on the 18th of August, we were married at Amarillo Air Force Base. We had something like 40 airmen, 2 WAFs, a few wives, her mom and dad, my mom and dad. My sister stood up for us, Pauline, and somebody named Glenn. No, not Glenn. Jeff was the best man. I don't remember his last name.
My train fell off, and we tried to find a safety pin in the church, and we ended up holding it together with a paper clip.
Yeah, we came out of the church, and her mother said, well, isn't somebody going to kiss the bride? We had to be driven off base in the car that her dad was giving us until we got off base. Then I could drive.
Yeah.
And we had this great dinner planned at this wonderful steakhouse, which turned out to be a
barbecue pit. People were in there with shorts and bare feet.
That was our wedding dinner. Then I got assigned to technical training school as an instructor, and this is really where I learned a lot of the skills that I have in my life today: how to write, how to research, how to teach people, how to talk to people in small bits and teach them a lot. And it wasn't long after that we moved to Biloxi, Mississippi, and that's where our first daughter was born.
Yep, Deborah was born June 18th.
1969.
Yep.
And 2 months later, Hurricane Camille hit.
This was back when we had cloth diapers. The water was run on an electric pump, so we were without electricity, which meant we were without water. I couldn't wash the diapers.
And Deanna was then born the end of December 1970.
She was born on the 11th, not the end
That's
of
right.
December.
Well, 11th of December.
That's
the end of the year. We had our 2 little girls at Keesler Air Force Base. Roseanne especially remembers the good food in the military hospital.
Yeah, I threw a pancake against a wall and it bounced off.
And we returned to Minnesota, where we started our Minnesota life living with my mom and dad. We came back to First Free, sang in the church choir. Then one night,
Dolores Gibson, me and a few other people were talking, and I learned that she had come out of the Lutheran church. And I said, "Why did you come here?" And we talked a little bit about it because I was sort of, this church was kind of weird. Pastors didn't wear robes. There was no ornate stuff, and it was just weird. She goes, "Well, you know what? It isn't about all of the customs and stuff. It's about a relationship with Jesus Christ." And though I had heard probably those words in many sermons, that night it made a difference. And so I accepted Christ.
Well, and that was sort of like, okay, there's no more reason to resist. My wife is a believer. I've known about Christ all my life. So we both came to Christ within 24 hours of each other, which is pretty cool. I prayed that God would give us life verses. God gave me Philippians 2:5, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." I also wanted a verse for Roseanne, and I thought 2 Chronicles 4:2 was pretty good, where so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so. She didn't agree with it, but it sort of came true.
That's
eventually.
right. Yep, because we had 3 more kids.
At our 10-year anniversary, we went to Lakeside Restaurant,
Yep.
right?
You had a live band.
Yeah, we had a live band, and I said to her, "What do you want them to play?"
If by Bread. They said, "We don't know that one."
So I said, "Beer Barrel Polka."
So he looks at me and gives me a toast.
And here was the toast. Let's hope the next 10 years are better than the first 10. It's not what I meant.
That's what you said. Yep.
When David was born, I was so overwhelmed that I actually had a son because I didn't think that would ever happen.
That's right.
But just the fact that this old guy by then in his 30s actually had another child was pretty amazing. And then we had 2 more. Daniel came along and Dawn, all a year and a half apart. Just after Daniel was born, Roseanne figured out that it would be good for us to have some outside income. She took up cake decorating. Everybody who knows her knows she's an incredible, almost artist at cake decorating, and sometimes that's carried us through the tough times. One day I came home and I said, "Honey, guess what? We're going to do a concert."
I said, "What do you mean by a concert?" "Well, you know, solos and duets and stuff." And I'm like, "You've never even heard me sing."
Yeah, but I knew
it'll be okay. It's oh my God.
We actually did our first concert, 20 minutes, at First Evangelical Free Church. We ended up with what we called the Racer Family Singers, and we sang lots of churches and nursing homes, State Fair, every year just about.
State Fair.
When David sang Jesus Loves Me at age 3, we didn't even have to do the rest of the program. Dave and Dan and Dawn were homeschooled all the way from kindergarten to their graduation. Along the way, we had moved to Barclay Street to the family house, and we were living with Grandpa and Grandma Racer. My kids were exposed to them all the time. It was a wonderful place to be. Then our home kind of shifted because this is the mid-90s and my mom got cancer, and Mom and Dad moved home, and we became, if you will, the nursing home and cared for her until her death in 95. And Dad stayed with us for 5 years. The family house eventually became a hangout for all the homeschool kids. Total chaos in our house when you have 12 homeschool kids there.
Well,
just
how
hanging
about
out.
25 or 30?
25
We'd
or
have
30
those in the
sometimes.
backyard summer parties.
10 for dinner on a Sunday. It was crazy and loud. Dan's quite a musician. We had a band practice in our house, in the apartment downstairs. 2 drum sets, all kinds of amplifiers.
Twanging guitar. It
as
was
loud
wonderful.
as you could. She loved it. It was great to us to have our children comfortable enough to be at home. Well, and then 1994, was that the year Deanna and Mark married? I think that's right, 1994. And they met here at First Free Church.
Yes.
We're sitting in the room where they met.
Yes, right.
How do you like that?
Yeah.
And Mark actually asked us for permission to marry Deanna.
And of course I laughed, but then I laugh at everything. So,
and Mark and Deanna have had 2 children.
2 children. Andrew, who is now married at 19, and Jacqueline, who is just graduated high school. So
Andrew and Kristen Dembowski and Jacqueline, who just graduated from high school. In the late 90s, the co-op that we belonged to, it's called YAY, Youth Educated at Home. And by the way, it's where David met his future bride, Alicia, I started teaching American government there and student senate, which I tried to quit once.
Everyone cried. It lasted 1 year, and then he went back.
My first class, David, Daniel, and Dawn, learning American government from me. I found out they weren't all as excited
They
about it.
were really bored.
We went on to student senate. Dan loved it. Dawn loved it. David, not so much. I started writing a few books. I'm at 47 now. Our kids got older. David marries Alicia, who he had met at
Yay.
during the co-op period.
Yep. He gave his heart away then, and he never got it back.
They gave us 2 wonderful grandchildren.
Kaylin and Siler.
Kaylin is,
She's 8.
and Siler's
3.
And they happen to live in Florida, by the way,
Florida.
which is way too far
Yeah.
away. David, by the way, is a wonderful painter.
Cabinet finisher.
A cabinet
too.
finisher,
Yes.
yeah. It's soon after that Dan met Melanie. And Melanie actually was a youth pastor. Dan was really into music, and he's an electrician. That was a unique wedding, too. Why?
Daniel wrote a song for her when he proposed to her, and they were up in Duluth. He proposed to her on the dock. He sang a song, and she said she got so shook she almost dropped the ring in the lake. They got married, and she didn't know it, but he had composed a song, and he sang it to her right after the beginning of the ceremony.
It's kind of like my proposing to her. Oh, that's right. I didn't
No,
propose.
you didn't
I
propose.
forgot.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Dan and
Of
Melanie have had now 4 children.
Yes.
With Gavin, who is
Gavin
what, 6?
is 6. Stella is 3. Then they had twins, John and Esther, and they're just over a year old now.
Just a little after that, then Dawn met Kyle, and they became married. And Kyle has 2 daughters that are now part of our family, Brianna and Morgan. Our family now has grown to 5 children, 10 grandchildren. Our Christmases are wild and crazy, noisy.
The laughter is the part it scares people. You have to warn them when they come to our house.
As the kids finally left, that was tough on Mom because she'd been educating a couple of decades.
Yeah. I was working for Deanna, and she wanted to get out of it, so I took it over. It was a cleaning company, and I took it over in 2013. Cool.
60th birthday.
All my life, I've been dreaming about jumping out of an airplane, and I got to do it on my 60th birthday.
And people said, David, are you jumping too? I said, no, are you crazy? It was great. I'd be happy to watch her do it again. And so here we are at 50 years.
And so let's hope the next 50 are better than the first.
There you go.